Welcome everyone to this Independent Billboard Owners Seminar. It's a true honor to see so many of you here, and I'm so grateful that you've decided to spend the afternoon or maybe the lunch or maybe the morning with me and Kim and the lineup of amazing speakers that we have here today. I'm very glad that we were able to do this too. This has been, for all of us, a really tough year with a lot of unexpected things that happened, most of them not so great. But one silver lining that's come out of it is the opportunity for us to gather people in this virtual way and actually being able to pull this webinar together and reaching so many of you without having to travel. So again, we're really glad to have you here, and we're really glad that we're able to do this. I'm not going to speak for a very long time. I am merely here to say welcome and tee up the rest of the day. And I'm soon being joined by Kim, who's going to give a few remarks also. But I wanted to say, again, in the vein of, it's been a tough year, but we're starting to see the light in the end of the tunnel. And I just wanted to give a few proof points and some positive notes that, you know, we can keep in the back of our minds and hopefully take with ourselves out there into the market about out of home and where we stand right now. So I think you all know that out of home has historically been very immune to recessions and recovers faster than most other media channels. And we really believe that the same will be true regarding the rebound from the current economic downturn and the situation we're in. While all of us really have faced surprising and again rapidly changing challenges these past few months, out of home has held up fairly well during the pandemic. So just a few things to kind of support that. Magna has forecasted that in 2021, out of home will outperform all other traditional media and digital and have a growth rate of 10%. And this year, our medium is forecasted to be down 15% by the end of the year, but that is way better than earlier predictions that have shown that out of home would be down between 20 and 25%. And again, better than many media channels. So even though it is a tough year, we're lucky we had a strong first quarter, and it looks like the end of the year is not going to end up in such a bad place after all. Regarding the overall ad business, Magna expects a full ad recovery by 2022, when U.S. revenue is expected to hit $235 billion, which is compared to 2019 when the ad revenue was $223 billion. So by 2022, hopefully, if Magna's right, we're going to be in a much better place as an overall industry. But again, our industry is really expected to grow next year. A main reason for a more optimistic prediction for the next several months is because many brands have actually expressed interest and intend to resume ad plans. Advertiser perceptions research show that most brands are looking to restart advertising in the third quarter. And the survey also revealed the importance of creativity in today's fast-changing market. In fact, 82% of the survey respondents agreed that storytelling is a go-to strategy for brands making a pivot during the COVID-19 crisis. And fortunately, creative and creativity is one of out-of-home's advertising absolutely strongest advantages. So that's something that we should use to promote our medium. Historical data also demonstrates why advertising during a recession is a very good idea. Nielsen has been conducting marketing mix modeling for the past 20 years. And to produce the analysis, Nielsen analyzes data from thousands of media mix models to glean insights about the impact of various advertising decisions. And this has shown that short-term decisions to go dark during financial downturns puts the brand's long-term revenue at significant risk. It's important to keep your brand out there and keep yourself relevant to the consumers. Nielsen's database of long-term effect models suggests that cutting advertising for the rest of 2020 could lead to an 11% revenue decrease in 2021. So brands really need to make sure that they're in front of their consumers at all time. And again, our medium is a really great way to do that and to not go dark. And we know that consumers are out there, even though their travel patterns have changed, they're out there and they're close to points of purchase when they're out there, because mostly when we leave our homes, for those of us who have been in quarantine, it is with the intention to go and buy something. So again, keeping your brand in front of consumers is going to be very, very important. Um, Also, we know that people are getting outside more often and then for other reasons. Kim will talk more about current traffic trends in a moment, but I want to again point to a study that I hope that you've seen that we commissioned with On Device that found that consumers this summer are definitely going to be traveling and be on the road. 53% of consumers plan to take a summer vacation this year. 78% will be undertaking a highway journey, and 62% plans to use their personal cars as their primary mode of transportation. So this summer, we'll see a lot of Americans on the road. They are planning on spending some money, and they are really happy to be outside again. So even though we've been through a tough time, I think that there's a lot to be very positive about. And we look forward to working with all of you through the rest of this year and through next year when we're going to be experiencing more growth on the road to success. So with that, some short, just little key stats that I hope you will find useful. And now I want to hand it over to Kim so she can talk a little bit more about traffic data and what Geopath has done during the crisis.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. You know, as the nonprofit organization that's responsible for measuring out-of-home audiences in the United States, Geopath has seen a massive increase in the importance of data as we navigate these abnormal traffic fluctuations that we're seeing across the country. And, you know, in April, there was this myth that there was no one on the street, and that was spreading throughout the advertising community. So we pivoted really quickly to provide near real-time audience data as soon as possible. We've heard that those data have been really valuable. We've put together some data across all of the DMAs to share with all of you who attend today. We're seeing traffic move up and move towards normal levels. I mean, obviously people are traveling differently, but they're getting out at almost near the levels that we were seeing back in March. So we're pleased to see that, but we're continuing to monitor that every single week. I do want to say, you know, Scott Fischetti, our SVP of Operations, is going to talk a little bit more later about some of our COVID-19 related data solutions. Know that whether you are a member of Geopath or not, we are here for you at Geopath. I know Anna and the OAAA team are here to help you navigate through these challenging times. From our perspective, you can always reach us. We're at geekout@geopath.org. And we're here to help everybody just understand what's happening in as close to near real time as possible. Everything is different. Every market is different. We're going to see peaks and valleys as we migrate back towards normalcy. So know we're here to help you. Before we get in too deep, Anna and I do want to thank our steering committee for today's event for helping our organizations develop the content. The steering group included Deanna Stevenson, CEO of Grace Outdoor, Nick Keys Jr., who's Vice President at Key Ads, and Scott LaFoy, CEO for Link Media Outdoor. Thank you so much to all three of you for your help and your time to put this together today.
And OAAA and Geopath would also like to thank Daktronics for being today's presenting sponsor. We do truly appreciate their support, and especially during this difficult time. So here to say a few words from Daktronics is the out-of-home advertising market manager, Colin Hubbard.
Thanks, Stephen, for the introduction and the opportunity to be involved and sponsor this great event. Daktronics has been involved in the out-of-home business since the early 2000s, providing digital display solutions for owner-operators. We design, build, and test all of our products in our South Dakota-based facility. Since 2006, we have shipped close to 5,000 digital displays for out-of-home third-party applications and have over 400 different independent companies as our partners. In addition to our high-quality products, we offer a host of other services such as regulatory support and assistance, content creation, ad sales support, and training. We appreciate being part of the out-of-home industry and appreciate our varied partners. I would like to close with a short video. Thank you for your time and attention.
They say you should always go back to your roots. Well, we never left. From a dream by two South Dakota professors in 1968 to keep talented graduates working in South Dakota, to more than 50 years later, supporting highly skilled American workers across 3 Midwest factories, Brookings, Sioux Falls, Redwood Falls. We call these places home. Daktronics designs, develops, and does detailed assembly right here in the United States using an advanced global parts network, and supports more than 2,000 proud American employees. Engineers, programmers, project managers, service technicians, skilled manufacturers, and more. They're your neighbors. The people that drive our business and keep your operation running are also the people that support our economy and call this place home. Reliable, secure products, all mastered right here in the heart of America. Our roots are strong here, and we're not going anywhere. Daktronics, proudly American since 1968.
Thanks so much, Colin. So without further ado, let's jump into the content for today. Our first speaker is one of my personal favorites and friends, Gordon Burrell. He is the founder of Burrell Associates, a leading provider of local advertising research, analysis, and market-specific ad spending data. You may remember him from our conference in Boca Raton a few years ago. Burrell Associates provides detailed market advertising reports for hundreds of local interactive and traditional media companies, including out-of-home, and customized reports for any US market. Gordon is here to discuss the silver linings for small business advertising. He will identify key indicators for emerging out of the pandemic and discuss what to expect as the media marketplace evolves during the rest of 2020 and into 2021. We know you'll enjoy listening to Gordon Burrell.
Hello, Kim, and hello, everybody. How the hell are you? What I've got about 20 minutes, I'm going to tell you about what's going on in the local advertising marketplace. I'm really pleased to be here and happy to be addressing the independent outdoor advertising folks, you people, because you're in a really interesting position. Let me step back and tell you what my job is, and thank Anna and Kim for inviting me to do this, because I really do enjoy giving perspective to the advertising marketplace. We run the largest survey of local advertisers in the country. We ping advertisers every single month. Local businesses is all we focus on, is local, 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 not big national advertisers. The smaller businesses that might spend maybe a couple of $1 million down to maybe tens of thousands of dollars on advertising across newspapers, radio, TV, et cetera. And we see some pretty interesting macro trends. One of them is, and Anna referred to this, the amazing resilience of outdoor. It has been the most insulated traditional type of media. We would call it an analog media, but I know there's a bit of a migration to digital as well. But it's just amazing to watch. It's the only medium that has not been affected by all of this digitization of content, where your competitors like television and television viewing, broadcast TV, and newspaper readership and terrestrial radio listening and all the things you compete with, direct mail, haven't had such a great time. So congratulations, keep up the good work. I'm going to tell you why that is. And I want you to stay focused on it. But before I do, I wanted to talk about this perfect marketing storm that formed. Last year, we noticed it, and we began understanding that there was a storm that was forming. This is before we knew what COVID-19 was. And you should know about it because I think it pertains to a lot of your ad buyers. The more you understand it and kind of know what's occurring, the more I think you can communicate with them and get on the same wavelength and communicate the value proposition of your outdoor advertising advantages to them. So there's a YouTube video that we put together for advertisers. If you go to YouTube on this first slide, you can just Google, you go to YouTube and just look for perfect marketing storm. I'm not going to play this video for you. It's about 2 or 3 minutes, but I put this together to tell you the story that I'm about to tell you, but with the advertisers in mind. So once you see it, I think you'll go, oh yeah, gosh, you know, I want to send this to all my buyers. You should really see this. So the video's there. Go to YouTube, search for Perfect Marketing Storm, and you'll see it. And it'll be me sitting in the edge of my desk in all my splendor, telling the story I'm about to tell you in a little more animated form, perhaps. So the setup for this storm, on the next slide, you'll see there were a number of conditions that existed prior to this COVID-19 hitting. And again, we noticed this at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and that is social media had become the most used platform. There weren't a whole lot of businesses that weren't using 11% social media as a marketing platform. Many of them were buying advertising, boosting posts. And that had never occurred before. We never saw, for instance, 89% of businesses buying an ad in the yellow pages at the yellow pages peak. And it was like, wow, they've really glommed to this. You never see 89% of businesses buying radio or 89% buying outdoor or anything. So we found that social media was really interesting, and it became concerning to us because many of them were only doing, not a whole lot, but quite a few, only doing social media. And social media, we noticed, had become an echo chamber, and that is, it's a targeted medium. It's not like outdoor, which is more mass. It's very targeted, and advertisers tend to spend money only to reach that audience that likes their page or follows their page. And so it's an echo chamber. And we knew that they really didn't realize that. So we thought, ooh, that's kind of dangerous. We also found at the end of last year that 3 in 5 of local business owners or businesses weren't sure that they were spending the right amount of money. They'd say, we think we're overspending. We think we're underspending. We have no clue. 3 in 5. And that was kind of crazy. We had never seen that before. Many of them weren't sure whether their advertising actually worked, but that's persisted. That's been throughout decades. But now they had become unsure whether they were over or underspending. So this created a level of confusion in the marketplace. We also found that many more marketing tasks were being handled internally. So they have the medium at their disposal. It's basically, they have their own signage, right? On the internet, on Twitter, on Facebook. They can shoot their own videos. So they were beginning to do all this stuff internally, and they remain novices. So this is your customer base. Your customer base are doing a lot more marketing themselves, shooting videos, posting messages, creating flyers, in a Word document or a PowerPoint document, and they're not marketing experts. What I'm trying to tell you is that they need your help and your expertise. So to the extent that your sales reps can have a broader sense of marketing, this is your competition. All the folks in radio, all the folks in TV, all the folks in newspapers, we're talking roughly 40,000 sales reps out there representing those 3 media, are transforming into marketing consultants because they know the need of these advertisers. When the advertiser says, now imagine this, this is underscoring the problem. What if a key advertiser you're trying to get, maybe it's an auto dealer, maybe it's a big hospital, maybe it's a real estate agent, and you're trying to get them to buy some signage, some billboards, whatever. And let's say they have a question about TikTok. You know what TikTok is? And they're thinking, I wonder if TikTok is a viable advertising platform. I wonder if I could actually use that. I know, I'll call, fill in the blank with your sales rep's name or your name. Would that ever happen? Well, it's got to. So that's where it's headed. These advertisers, as I've just outlined for you, are very, very confused, and they're looking for marketing help. And the person they pick up the phone and call is going to advise them what to buy. And what do you think they'll say if they're a radio rep and your client, your advertiser, is talking with them about TikTok and says, hey, I've been thinking about buying some outdoor. What do you think about that? What do you think the radio rep's going to say? Probably, no, don't buy outdoor. So that's the position that you're in today. You really have to have a broader sense of marketing. We've also found, and this is really fascinating, that costs have mushroomed to over $100,000 a year for the average SMB in managing all this digital crap that they have to manage. So on the next slide, you'll see a survey that we did last fall asking them, okay, do you do social media management? Do you handle it internally? Do you do website design? Do you do email management, reputation management? All this stuff that they need to kind of juggle, all these plates they need to spin to manage all this digital stuff that they have. And all this digital stuff is great. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on it. It works really well. It's inexpensive, but they're a little overboard on it right now. And this shows that most of what their costs were internal. So it's their secretary shooting a video on her iPhone, of the guy standing in front of a new machine that they bought or something like that, or some sales rep, posting something on Facebook for them. If you add these up on average, the average business was spending, and this is a fairly small business, $120,000 a year on managing this digital marketing. That's just managing it. And here's the kicker. They didn't know it. They had no clue. When we calculated the cost for them and spit it back to them, they were all surprised it was that much money. So you get the picture, they overspent. So here we come into COVID, the crisis, and advertisers do what they typically do, not all, most of them, about 55%, freeze up and stop marketing. What they don't understand, and this is really, I'm going to give you some good news stuff here to sort of chew on. What they don't understand is during a crisis, as you'll see on this next slide, most marketers will look at the orange line and ride that, and they'll go, oh my God, consumer confidence is really nobody's low, nobody's coming out of their house, nobody's doing anything, and they're in business. And you should communicate this with them. They should be riding that blue line, which says people are still buying stuff. They're still buying food, they're still buying toilet paper, they're buying beef jerky, they're buying hand sanitizer, they're buying mulch, for God's sakes. They're buying all kinds of stuff. And as the doors reopen, they're probably hiring lawyers, divorce attorneys and people to change their wills for them because they've been home with kids for 3 months. So there's a lot of stuff that is bought during any type of economic downturn or crisis. People keep buying stuff. The businesses that understand that, your businesses, if you can communicate this to them, will thrive. And the other businesses will just kind of wilt or wither. What we've told folks, we've done 52 webinars in the past, 55 webinars in the past 3 months for about 20,000 local advertisers. And what we've told them is that, look, if you could put a dentist and a dentist side by side in one market, or an Italian restaurant, HVAC dealer, you get the picture, okay? And one of them will thrive during a crisis and one of them will fail. And the only difference is marketing. One will market themselves and the other will kind of go silent, not know what to do, wring their hands and say, well, we can't really communicate. This is the best time to communicate. So if you understand that stuff is sold and that businesses, lots of businesses are actually launched during a recession because it's the best time to launch a business. Microsoft, CNN, AutoNation, Airbnb, Uber, they were all launched during recessions. Once you get this information out to businesses, they go, oh yeah, now what I really need is your help crafting the type of message that we need to have out there. People are out and about, people are driving, people are eager to get out of their house, and they're eager to look around them and see all this signage out there. And I think the outdoor industry is a perfect place for that because I think people are a little bit tired of binge watching television for 3 months. So go for it. I think you have a great opportunity to help businesses. There's some very encouraging news as we do our business barometer every 3 months. On this next slide, you'll see that there was a big spike in the percentage of businesses saying that they thought the environment would get worse, the U.S. economy get worse for sustaining a small business. You can see there in late March, it spiked up to 71% of businesses after many, many quarters of being fairly low. And then when we surveyed businesses roughly a month ago in the latter part of June, it was down to 25%, which is a normal level of skepticism. And 37% said they felt that the business environment would get better. So here it comes. They're feeling good. Things are reopening. There are a lot of businesses that will not reopen and will shut down because they remain silent. They didn't pivot. They really didn't understand how to market themselves and to communicate. And advertising really is communication. So we found a couple of more things that we found to be very encouraging during the crisis and coming out of the crisis. And it shows the resilience of the American public and the economy. And that is, people were asked in this survey on the next slide, how soon after the COVID-19 restrictions are eased in your area, do you think you'll make a major purchase? So this was asked only of people who didn't purchase a sofa, a refrigerator, a car, something big, something over, couple $1,000. How soon do you think you'll make that purchase? 14% said within a month. This number is usually down in the low percentage points, single-digit percentage points. So it's kind of a springboard effect. People are ready to jump out and make that purchase. That was really good news. And we did see, by the way, if you look at some of the data out of Harvard Business Review on what happened in China, and they're about 45 days behind us on recovery and resurgence and things like that. and the economy really bounced back. The traffic bounced back, physical road traffic and foot traffic in cities they measured bounced back very quickly. Real estate sales bounced back. So there is this bounce back, even though there is very likely, and there actually is right now, a resurgence. People are out there and they're shopping, they're doing things. They might even be buying online. And all of this influence that we have out of advertising, it just becomes so critical during this time. Because like I said, a lot of businesses go silent. And if you have half of your competitors go silent, isn't that a wonderful thing? And isn't it a great time to raise your hand? This is the message you should be putting out there to advertisers. One other bit of research out of Nielsen was this. It said, the question was asked, how much do you agree? And this is just such a heartwarming statistic on this next slide. Makes me want to cry. Once the lockdown is lifted, how much more of an effort to support local businesses will you make? This is the percent, not who agreed, oh, I'm going to make more of an effort to support local businesses. This is the percent who strongly agreed. They're going to make a greater effort to support local businesses. Thank God. Go out there, show this to local businesses and say, for God's sakes, in your messaging, put the word local, locally owned. Even if you're a franchise, you know, all of our workers are local. But it is just, you know, I think the message got through to people that we really do need to support our local businesses. They're just like us and they're worthy of supporting. You know, the Targets, the Walmarts, the Amazons, you know, people are still going to continue to shop there, but I do think the message is out there, and this is a big advantage to local businesses and to your customer base as well, that putting the word local or mentioning somehow that they're part of the community is going to be really important. We can't really predict what's going to happen. We see all of our data. We provide data and forecasts. And by the way, Anna had mentioned that outdoor is looking at a decline of about 15% this year. It is among the strongest of all traditional forms of media. Our data, which is, like I said, purely local, and we forecast every single market, shows an average of 15%. But I got to tell you, outdoor in some markets is only going to be down, we think, about 4 or 5%. And it's based on the type of market that you are in and the type of businesses in that market. And that's really important. I can't emphasize that more, that here in Williamsburg, I'm in Williamsburg, Virginia, and Busch Gardens is here. Water Country USA is here as well. Colonial Williamsburg. Things are a bit slow, but there's still quite a bit of advertising, and perhaps maybe even more in some cases, because of the businesses that have stepped up and said, wow, now is a really great time to advertise. But it might in net be a little bit slower than everybody else because you don't see the huge amount of advertising that you typically see from local businesses trying to tap into the tourists because they're not really here. So it really depends on your market. I would say that you have a great, great opportunity, and I just want to wrap it up by being able to be marketing consultants and to help these advertisers in this very critical time when their business can thrive. You have a great medium at your disposal in outdoor. It has been, and I think will continue to be very, very resilient. People do respond to it. They do tend to see those messages. And I do think that you've got a great competitive advantage in owning that type of medium. What will make it even stronger is if you understand and can connect with those advertisers with that message that, wow, there is no better time to advertise with the right message than right now. So thank you for having me. I hope this was very helpful. And Anna and Kim, thanks for inviting me.
Gordon, thank you very much. Very insightful information there. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm Nick Keys Jr. with Key Ads Outdoor, Dayton, Ohio. And our next session is a fireside chat with Chris Colbeck and Carrie Yoakum. Chris is general manager of Look Billboards in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and also the general manager of IBO, which is the Independent Billboard Operators. He's been doing that for the last 6 years, the IBO that is. IBO is a networking group, which is a for-profit business operating on a not-for-profit basis. It is a group of like-minded individuals that are from the out-of-home industry that come together a couple times a year to share ideas, learn about new techniques, technologies, and to have fun. I've been there. Carrie Yoakum serves as OAAA Vice President of Government Affairs, and he's joining Chris today. Kerry has extensive experience in law, advocacy, public affairs, and state regulatory activities. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Absolutely.
So since this was a fireside chat, I thought I'd put a fireside background and enjoy our conversation here with Chris, since we can't get out, and enjoy it together. So
should have been my cabin.
That would have been wonderful.
That would have been perfect.
So what I've done is Chris and I worked together to develop a few questions that hopefully will provide some insights and enlighten you on hopefully some of the information that's available. So the first question I have for you, Chris, is what OAAA Geopath resources have you found the most useful? And let's expand that and just include anybody at IBO USA maybe that's mentioned to you.
Okay, can do that. First off, OAAA, I recognized a number of years ago with dealing with Nancy Fletcher that really OAAA is our trade organization for the industry. They take on a lot of mantles, they do a number of different things, and this webinar is an example, and teaming up with Geopath to do these webinars. We canceled our conference in Louisville, and it was devastating to a bunch of us. We hated it. We did a little mini Zoom, and very difficult to pull these things off. So what I've enjoyed are these webinars. A case in point, just last week, Andy with Outfront and Josco with Talon did a wonderful down in the weeds. It would make a lot of people's heads spin as far as the detail they got into between programmatic and automated and the data and those kinds of things. And that's all our world, that we really need to embrace those things. And for OAAA to be able to bring that kind of talent and that kind of insight, the insight of those gentlemen, just tremendous. I can't go find that on my own. So that's where I think that a huge benefit is pulling together those kinds of resources. Even especially Gordon just a bit ago, a couple of the points that I'll bring up, he's already highlighted. It's amazing that that kind of thing can come together. So that's where I see the value has helped me out. Legal is an area that none of us individually, I'm fortunate I haven't had any legal issues down in Ardmore, Oklahoma, or state of Oklahoma is pretty easy. But just south of us down in Texas, there were some issues. There was what really started me talking with OAAA with Nancy kind of behind the scenes was Scenic America. Boy, we really need broad support. We need the IBO independent support to back that up. And that's when I broadened my own horizon and said, you know what, we're just not in there on our own. We got to figure out how to participate and coordinate with many others in the industry, whether they're big or small, rich or poor, rural, suburban, metro, it doesn't matter. And so I've really appreciated that area of legal being covered for us. The other, the data, the stats, the selling tools that are there. I dug back into one, and because it's kind of brought up a little bit online, that's going to be one in our last segment talked about this. This is something that I needed to figure out how to come up with a way, some tools. And so there's some wonderful handouts that are there, a Nielsen study on the effectiveness of bringing mobile in and combining that with our out-of-home locations. I have to figure out how to educate myself with a small market, 100 faces and 5 digitals, because I operate that on our own. How do I compete and get that out there? It's a data resource. So those are the key things for me that are very important. There's so much information, it's hard to go get it all the time. And so if you'll key into these different webinars, key into these different things, newsletters and things that pop up, you as independents will broaden your horizons and benefit from it. As far as Geopath, Geopath, like me, like many of us that have cut our teeth in the rural location areas, we've grown up not selling audience. We sell location. It's the best damn sign coming into town, and by gosh, everybody wants it. We don't mind how many audience people are there. However, I have realized that I have to do better. And a couple of years ago, I started down that path, and I've realized that we have to educate our local advertisers. We have to really inform them on what the audience means. And you can see they're confused. I love that bit that Gordon said, that they're novices. And I'll bring up in a later question some things around that I have worked hard to try to do in my local market, and things that I try to bring to my coworkers and other independents across the board. So we also need to enlighten each other about effective ways to do these things. And these kind of webinars are a perfect way to do that, because we've got to know what the national buyers want. We sell local, but where we're going to get our upside, especially going forward with the technologies coming together, is knowing what the buyers want, the national buyers. Your local buyers will improve and they love it, but at the same time, we really have to tap into that national buying. If we're going to get from the several hundred billion dollars that are being spent and increase our 8 billion up to 10 billion or 12 billion, we've really got to figure out how to band together. Some of the tools that I've personally taken on is IBO has become a member of Media Rating Council. And they do audience measurement, analytics, and auditing. And I have done a do better talk to myself. I've got to learn more about it. I didn't cut my teeth on it. I didn't understand it very well 3 and 4 years ago, but participated in oodles of audits of all that data. And it really is becoming valuable. I mean, I can see the insights on how valuable it's going to become to us as we merge from static into digital and into online. It'll all blend together for us. So we really, and to increase our revenues, we must all do a better job of just banding together the best we can. Because, you know, we have a lot of good friends across the boards in this industry, and you know, there aren't that many bad apples. And you know, if we can all get along and all figure out how to make that step, I think that's the power of the organizations coming together.
Thank you, Chris. Very good answers. As you mentioned, some of those tools, some of our next speakers will cover some of those in a little more detail, which is a great lead-in to some of the next presentations. So one thing Gordon just mentioned is, let's say you're asked to compete for how do you sell out of home over radio or television. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, what's the best way to attack that when you're approached with that question?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that he brought up is what I've done for, maybe 20 years, 15 years for sure, ever since we got digital in play. We were forced into that. Somebody put one on the interstate. We go, what in the heck are they doing that for? And then we did our research, we studied it up, and the next thing you know, we came up with a way to do something that we had to know our market. And so you've got to know what the people in your market, the businesses, Gordon brought it up. Every market's going to be different. You got to know your businesses. You really got to understand who they are. Or highway is a businesses, mostly hotels and restaurants, to get business off a highway, and you'll have only one feeder. Ours has got 9 different feeders coming into it. We've got a wide variety of trade centers. So you really have to know those different things. You have to also know the dollar points, what your consumers. We're one of the poorest counties in the country, Carter County, where I live. It's southern Oklahoma, but interestingly, we were ranked to have the most millionaires at one point in time because we're in the oil boom area. And so we really have to know the types of businesses and what their pain points are as far as budget, dollar amounts. We're one of the most affordable places to live in the country, but it's also one of the hardest places to do business. So if you can figure out how to do business in a really, really tough time, you'll do really well when it comes up. So back to what we decided that we needed to do, we needed to not focus on things we couldn't control or couldn't focus on or didn't understand, radio, TV, paper. We decided to take it a different way and become a local marketing expert, and then try to figure out how to help them and maybe just divert a little bit of money from one budget to ours. Let us try you out. And then we came up with at that point in time, pretty revolutionary, because none of the software provided. We had to create an algorithm to make it happen. But we would sell a package called a rotary network. We put in 3 billboards when our consultant said put 1 in. We now have 5 because we wanted to overbuild the market, in particular on purpose, so we could give a bonus space away to be able to sell our static boards that were being overbuilt like nobody's business because of the low dollar volume. We had everybody, we probably have twice as many billboards as we really should have in a market. And that may be common in other places. And so by coming up with that rotary where we would take it instead of a full slot, we would be able to take one slot and sell a quarter of it or a half of it and have it rotate to every billboard in the market. So every showing changed locations. We like dummies figured out afterwards that, oh, that caught the consumer's attention because they didn't see the same ads coming up. It's almost like a Rubik's Cube rolling around. You never can guess what the ad's coming up. And so those kinds of things put us in a spot. My real estate company, we've been 50 years in the business, and my mother had a terrific presence and a great salesperson, and we already had a good business presence. And so it was easy for me in our market to go into some places and make those pitches. But that's what you have to do. You have to strive to become that local expert. So what I also know is that TV, radio, and newsprint are falling down. So direct question is, I don't bother trying to compete with them. We've got a better medium. I've since focused on online ads. And so we're going to hear more of that in these other sections, but finding that platform and that tool set that enables you to do that. A consultant that we have, Corinne Rui, suggested that we get the information about for Ardmore from Burrell, which we did. Ardmore, of 25,000 people, spends $19 million a year. That's $750 per person on online ads. I can tell you that's significantly more than I make in the static and digital business and billboards. And so I looked at them and said 15% of it's originated locally. Well, I do quick math, that's $3 million. If I just targeted a simple 10%, that would be 300 grand. That would go right to my bottom line. And you know how much that cost me to generate to do that? Capital-wise, zero. And what I like about zero capital investment in any kind of revenue generation, it's an infinite return on equity. And so to me, it's a natural, we've just got to teach ourselves how to do those things. And that's how I'm formulating how I'm not only doing my own to improve my own, but also carrying it out to our coworkers and constituents in all of our groups.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Last question, and this kind of will conclude our time that we have here by the fireside. During these challenging times, how are you maintaining and enhancing existing advertising contracts?
Well, I know that's different all over the country. We are being in Southern Oklahoma, we were not really impacted, and we haven't been really impacted since. A few cases, whatnot. It's more the impact of national TV. What we do recognize is that all of this stuff is cyclical. And, I come from a real estate and mortgage background, some construction, but of investing as well. And I loved Gordon's charts a little earlier because everybody could see it. That little orange line, that's a cycle up and down. And we've been going through cycles and we'll continue to go through cycles over and over and over again. So just know that whatever you do is you have to figure out how to get through the downturns. And you have to be creative about that. How do you do that? Keep a positive. Where I'm located is in Southern Oklahoma. We're about 8 miles south of some of the oldest mountains in the world, the Arbuckle Mountains. And it's got an interesting thing. Our lake country is on the south side of these. On the north side is the north. Well, in the wintertime, the storms all stop there. And so they call our area the sunny side of the Arbuckles. And so I remind myself of that over and over again. I have to wake up and I have to have a positive attitude, a sunny attitude. I have to think positively about going forward and knowing that these hard times will circle back. But I also have to remain focused. I have to get back to basics. We get lazy. All of us are lazy and naturally. We like not necessarily to be going, like to find the easy way. But I was talking with one of the operators in the breadbasket area, and he goes, "Gosh, I've got so much time on my hands, I can't get out." He says, "But you know what I started doing? I started calling all my customers. I started customers that had dropped me in the past." He said, "You know what, Chris? I'm up 25% from last year. Yeah, I had 8 or 10 drop, but I've already replaced them and I'm significantly more." And so I'm asking questions. Well, why are they doing that? And I just don't know. Back to Gordon's charts. boom, all of a sudden people come out of being locked down or doing whatever, and there's a spring, there's a trigger, there's that. So get back to basics, make your calls, go visit your people, get back to basic selling and practice those things. I think it will be good for everybody. And then as far as the things that other than you do, because I notice many people are still working from home. We've seen an enormous increase in people's interest in cleaning their data, getting connected up to the platforms, figuring out ways to make their inventory more available. I can challenge everybody to get there and do those things. Go out and take new pictures. Heck, I'm a classic example. My pictures are 10 dadgum years old. I'm busy doing other things, but I need to get out there and take new pictures. Why? Because they're so important. Take pictures that's got traffic in them, for crying out loud. Not just, well, I just took a picture just to get a picture. Your POPs, take better POP pictures. Train your people that are doing that. Take better POPs because they represent the face of your business. So bottom line is find ways to be more efficient, connect up with platforms that will benefit you and that you trust, and participate. Get off the fence, get out there and do something.
Thank you so much, Chris. All these are great tips, and I hope that one of them resonates and really drives home something for somebody, and they can take it and translate it into some business for the industry. Those are wonderful. So next time I see you, I'm hoping that you're going to be by my side here. We're going to be sharing a few beers next to a real campfire. But I really thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome to come to Oklahoma anytime. The cabin's open to anybody that drifts through. We don't see many, but when they get here, they love it.
Well, I want to come to the sunny side of the Arbuckles.
Please do.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Deanna Stevenson with Grace Outdoor Advertising, and I'm happy to serve as the CEO. I'm glad everyone is here today. Next, we'll hear from a panel of industry experts who will help us all sell smarter, and don't we need that? Steve Nicklin is the OAAA's Vice President for Marketing, providing OAAA members, ad agencies, and advertisers with marketing insights and trends, overseeing the association's marketing research function, and he monitors ad spend performance for the out-of-home industry. Steve is going to be joined by Scott Piachetti, who is Geopath's Senior Vice President for Operations and Marketing, where his responsibility also includes communication and PR initiatives. Today, Scott and Steve will discuss the best ways for identifying new sales opportunities post-crisis and how independent operators can navigate brand expectations. Scott LaFoy, who will moderate the conversation, joins them. Scott is the CEO for Link Media. Scott, it's over to you.
Thanks, Deanna, and welcome everybody to the Selling Smarter segment. First, thanks, Chris and Carrie. That was really great and very informative. Thanks for doing that. As Deanna said, we have Steve and Scott here from OAAA and Geopath, and they will answer some questions from the field. The first question is, what do you suggest that would help generate interest in out-of-home for the first-time client?
Oh. Steve, are you?
So I think this has already been mentioned a couple of times today, both by Gordon and also Chris, but I think it's really important and I want to emphasize it again. And that's what I think the most important thing that we can do is to show up as a marketing consultant, not as a seller of ads or of locations, but as a consultant. And really demonstrating a sincere desire and understanding that client's business. And whether it's a formalized needs analysis or a more informal analysis, it's really critical, I think, that that's part of the process. The next step beyond that, of course, everybody loves success. They want to know what's working for other people. And so I think to introduce them to excellent out-of-home creative, perhaps a compelling case study that's from their specific category or from a retailer that perhaps is similar to theirs in nature, that's a great way to really hook them in and engage them in a conversation. And at the OAAA, we have a couple of really outstanding resources to help you in this regard. The first one would be our case study library, where we have over 750 cases. The scope of those are from national and regional all the way down to the local markets. Actually, the vast majority of our case studies are from local markets, and it's a whole variety of product categories. So I'd be very surprised if you couldn't find a useful example there. And then our creative library contains thousands of examples, and that's a great asset for anybody to use. Again, you can go in and search by product category or advertiser. In terms of other ways to engage them and really hook them into a conversation about the medium, of course, if it's a very sophisticated client, I think that you can get into conversation about some of the top line research proof points that we have about the medium. But perhaps a lot of the clients aren't quite as sophisticated and don't want to get into a deep conversation about research. So I think no matter what their level of sophistication is, another way to go about that is to talk to them about the audience fragmentation that's been occurring with all other media over the course of the last decade plus. Think about all the different ways that we can view content, listen to content, read content. Every other media has been really hit and impacted by audience fragmentation, but that's not happened to out of home. Of course, the pandemic has had some effect on our business, but over the course of the last couple years, there have been increasing miles traveled on U.S. roadways, increasing levels of airline travel, et cetera. And so that's also been part of our success. And as we've seen in the Geopath data, much of the traffic has now returned across huge swaths of the country. So that's really positive. The other point that I think that is really important to make sure that clients understand is how out of home is different. With competing media, the ads are all part of, they're all inside some sort of content, right? It's a commercial within a television program they're watching, or it's buried in an online story that they're reading, et cetera. But with out of home, because we are different, we are the actual content. The ad is the content. And so we're not disrupting the consumer experience. And what that leads to is research that we see. Morning Consult did a survey, and it showed that out of home was at the very top of consumer favorability in terms of how they rate different forms of advertising. And again, that's because we're not disrupting their experience. And then one of our guests, Gwen from WPP, spoke yesterday, and she used a really excellent term, and I'm going to start using this all the time. She called out of home a proximity marketing tool. We are very close to the point of sale or transaction, and that is a huge advantage for us, because what that means is, in many instances, out of home is the last ad that a consumer is going to see just prior to the point of sale or transaction. So we have an incredible ability to really influence how consumers respond. And then the last point I would make, and Gordon touched on this certainly, in the time of this COVID pandemic, there is a lot of research that's been done over course of many years, and the studies all show the same thing, and that is that brands that continue to advertise during economic downturns outperform their competitors who either reduce their advertising or eliminate their advertising.
Cool. And I'll just jump in too. And, one of the things that came up that Chris said that really resonated with me as well is that this idea of audience, right? That audience is becoming more and more important, and maybe something we didn't always focus on maybe back in the day. But now, and when you think about other channels and just such easy access to on digital, I can target hundreds of audiences. And maybe some of these small business owners are actually doing that and they're excited by that because, oh wow, I know I can target this customer on Facebook or this customer on Twitter or whatever channel I want to choose. Now out of home has that same ability, right? In terms of the Geopath, the Insight Suite, we have the ability to target like any other channel. We have 8,000 different audiences available to us to, you know, identify and reach the audiences that are important to all of our clients. You know, it also came up, you know, what Gordon said, you know, that's been referenced a few times. People are still out there purchasing, right? And they're purchasing in different areas, and there's still a lot of brick and mortar establishments out there. And maybe people aren't going there, you know, with COVID, maybe there's some pickup in that, but which we'll talk about later, we are still seeing a lot of traffic and a lot more, you know, miles traveled per day, especially recently. But where I'm going with that is that we have the ability to target a lot of those situations, those buying situations, whether you want to target people that go to a family sit-down restaurant, or they're into home improvement, or that are, you know, been to a QSR in the past 30 days. And not only that, the granularity of the data that we have available, we can look at and look by zip code to show, you know, what are those areas, what are those zip codes that we're reaching with just a single unit, just a single advertising billboard, you know, poster, whatever it is, can really understand the breadth and the reach of a market, really much more granular, and visualize that, which is always so exciting when I'm with, you know, I often am on the road, like Steve as well, talking with members and being at meetings, and it's always so interesting for me when I'm with a sales rep and we're talking to a potential client, and just in a few clicks to show them these maps and show them where their audience is coming from and just watching them lean in. There's just that power these days with all the data we have, and just being able to map out and help them understand where the audiences are in their market as well. So that's one thing that really resonated with me that I think will start to resonate with you know, people that maybe are new to out of home, a first time out of home buyer potentially.
Great answers, guys. Thanks. Next question is, some clients and prospect favor various types of media, such as digital, while others like radio and newspaper. What is the best way to address these advertisers?
Scott, I'll go ahead and jump in first on that, but I do want to take a second and just reinforce some of Scott's points, and that's that over the course of the last 5 years, I had the great pleasure of visiting about 1,000 different advertising agencies across the top 50 markets all across the US. In the last year and a half or so that I was able to start talking about the Geopath Insight Suite and all the data and information in there about audiences, there was this very marked increased level of interest on the part of all the agencies. So I think that, you know, the strategic advantage that gives us now to be able to talk about audience is really critically important, especially for agencies. But back to competitive media. I think the number one advantage that I would always talk about, and Chris actually talked a little bit about this when he spoke, and we don't ever want to go in and bash other media, right? And out of home is a great amplifier of every other sort of media investment because we have a greater reach than any other type of media, which gives us an incredible advantage. So I really liked his approach about where he said, you know, give us part of the budget and we'll help you get better results because we can amplify every other media investment and make all those other investments work better. But I think our greatest strategic advantage really is that our medium, because we're not content-based, we can't be skipped, turned off, blocked. You know, printed out of home, that's up and on 24/7. While digital out of home offers incredible flexibility and immediacy, comparable to what's available with online digital media, correct? And then also that flexibility and immediacy that our digital platform offers, that's really much greater than the type of immediacy and flexibility that our traditional competitors can offer. So I think that's one of the really important points. Again, reach, because we have that massive reach, our CPMs tend to be lower, so we tend to be a better value for a lot of advertisers. And of course, in today's economic environment, who isn't looking for more efficient use of their dollars and better value? So a really important point. And then I think that, again, because out of home is frequently that last ad that consumers see, because of where we're positioned in the marketplace, that's a really important point to drive home with them, that proximity marketing tool. And then I think lastly, the point I want to make is digital media is the largest ad bucket out there. And we saw this, with Gordon's survey, with small businesses, that a lot of them are putting a lot of money into digital media. So if they're really stuck on digital media and using those echo chambers that Gordon referred to, use this line with them. Tell them that out of home is big screens driving consumers to small screens. We serve as a trigger and a prompt, and we can really help them with those digital ad investments. We are the most efficient platform in driving online activation. We can do that more efficiently per ad dollar spent than television, radio, print, or banner ads.
Yeah, and just to jump in and kind of build on what Steve's saying, I always love hearing those stats that you mentioned, Steve, about amplification. I think that's really important and really key. It is about that synergy of out of home with other channels, right? It doesn't always have to be an either or, it can be an and. And I like, Chris even mentioned in his part, it's like, we don't need it all, just give us a start, right? And I think there's a couple of ways in, a couple of practical ways in, as I look at and talk to our members about how we can help them, and I'll just talk about two of them. So I'll start with radio, for example. And again, going back to this idea of audience, we have a number of audiences around usage of different media types, right? Radio, internet, newsprint, etc. And just focusing on those audiences. So like I said, just talking about radio, for example, we can target genres, we can target time of day, people listening to different genres like country or soft adult, contemporary, etc. Or even the networks that they're using, like Cox Media, CBS Radio, there's hundreds in there. But let's say you have a customer that's, you know what, I don't want out of home, I'm already advertising on radio. Great, fine. Let me show you how we can look at units that over-index for people that are listening to that genre that you're advertising on, or listening to that network that you're advertising on, and show that amplification to it. So not only we're helping add to what you're already doing, or you can take the other approach, right? Like, nope, I got Facebook, I'm happy with Facebook. I'm like Gordon said, 89% of people are using social media. But you know what? Not everybody is consuming social media, right? So we can go from the other side and be like, great, you're doing Facebook, keep doing that, but you're probably not reaching everybody. And we can show which audiences or which inventory kind of is best at reaching for those light users of internet or light users of social media. So there's kind of either side of it. There's a way in to start those kind of, like you said, those consultative conversations with them about, yeah, great, you're using other media, but you know what? Try us out too. We can help amplify. So.
Great stuff. Yeah. We all know out of home complements and/or supplements all other media in a great way. So good points. We all know this is a major election year and a record amount of money will be spent on political ad sales. How can out of home earn these dollars?
To address this, I want to share my screen. So I am going to try to pull this up and see if this happens. So you guys have to let me know. I think, can you see it now?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, great. Yeah. This is pretty detailed, so I wanted to put this up for everyone so you can grab screenshots or take a picture with your phone or whatever that you think is most important. But we do have on the OAAA site what we feel is a really comprehensive political primer that takes you through the whole political ad system, because it is very different from selling traditional out-of-home advertising. And what's really important to political ad decision makers really can falls into 4 key buckets. And, usually they're really looking to target very specific audiences. So of course, this goes back to the excellent Geopath data that we now have available. Speed, being able to quickly change messages and pivot as campaigns evolve and situations change in the environment. The creative is really important. And then again, just the overall infrastructure, and that's being able to, execute really quickly and seamlessly and be as error-proof as they can be. But there are 10 key political points for out-of-home. Ken Klein, who's our Executive Vice President for Government Affairs, Ken has a background as a journalist, and he was in politics for a long time, and then he's been at the OAAA for a very long time also. But he really understands the political environment very well. He's connected with a lot of campaigns, with consultants, and he has a real distinct perspective on this. And so we really worked on identifying what the 10 top benefits are for out-of-home in terms of political advertisers. And the first 5 are, number 1, it's always on. So there's no clutter that we have to try to compete with, right? We're breaking through. And what I said earlier about we can't be delayed, skip, turned off. It's a great way to build awareness. I think we're all aware of out-of-home's real strength as a brand building platform. So it can really give candidates branding and name ID quickly, or it can help create great awareness on rapid impact about potential issues or ballot initiatives, et cetera. Again, we have that ability to amplify all other media investments, so the value is really there, especially with that lower CPM we offer. The targeting that we now are able to offer with Geopath and other technology solutions. And then again, that speed and flexibility that in particular our digital platform offers. I mentioned earlier about how out-of-home is more effective than many other platforms in driving digital activation, but we also increase search ROI by 40% when we're part of the media plan. So that's really critical. Mobile engagement. Mobile devices are ubiquitous these days. A lot of the people who are really engaged and are going to be, prospective voters have mobile devices. And we have research from Nielsen that shows about 2/3 of consumers 16 plus say that out-of-home ads prompt them to take actions on their mobile devices. So some really good research there. And then we also reach high propensity voters. So of course campaigns are going to be really interested in that, right? We over-index with some of the most likely voters out there, with adults 25-54, with households who have incomes 100,000 plus, those with advanced degrees. But we also reach very diverse voters, and we reach young voters. Actually, the audience that out-of-home over-indexes with the highest is adults 18 to 34. And then we over-index with Blacks and Hispanics across almost all of our out-of-home formats. So those are 10 really key proof points that I think are really important. But I encourage you to take a look at that political primer that we have on the website. It's really rich and deep dive into really how to approach political sales in the out-of-home environment.
Yeah, I was really excited about this question too, because it does seem like the political dollars are starting to flow. I know Kim mentioned early on our Geek Out helpline, that if anybody needs anything to reach out to us there. But we're starting to see more and more requests for help around this area, helping them really identify voting audiences and / political audiences. So definitely I want to reiterate geekout@geopath.org. We also have some other that I didn't mention already. Our Geek Out library, which is available to members, is we have a ton of research and decks in there, one specifically on politics and voting as well. That would be a nice addendum to Steve's deck that he showed. But where I want to go with this is that going back to the audiences again, I just took a quick look before we jumped on today. We have over 20 audiences that are related to politics and voting, and what that allows us to do, and what we've done for some members that have I've called recently is really help them understand in their area, in their state, how do these different audiences map out? It's really great that we can create a heat map so they can understand, where are those people that tend to vote in presidential elections, or one that I think is a really key, valuable audience is independents, right? Not only is it like your affiliation is an independent, but where are those who are independents but lean Republican? Or where are those who are an independent but lean Democrat? Because again, those are obviously key audiences that everybody's trying to convert. And also too, you want to reinforce your base so we can help understand and map out a heat map of that area, but also will help you understand which inventory is best for reaching those particular audiences. So I think in this category in particular, I think out of home is really set to really be able to help all candidates, and we really hopefully take a really big chunk of the political ad dollars that seem like they're just starting to flow right now.
Okay, good. Thanks for those. Clients have a broad reaction to various out-of-home plans. Some ask, how can only one billboard have an impact? While others ask, why do I need 3, 5, or more billboards? Why won't one do the trick? How do you suggest handling these questions?
Okay. I can jump in first, Steve, on this if you want.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So just we can talk about the single billboard, the impact of a single billboard first, and then talk about kind of a multiple, like a package of billboards. It's really interesting nowadays, again, because of the granularity of data available, we can understand every zip code that generates an impression for a single billboard. And it's really amazing to see just like I said before, a heat map of all the impressions generated from just a single billboard. You can see hotspots all across the country. Obviously, a lot of times it's very regional in that respect, but you can see how one billboard can impact so many people in so many geographies in so many areas. And one thing that I'm always find really interesting as well, and again, when I'm on the road talking with people, just showing them this, I can see the light bulb go on, is a lot of times when you map that out, the zip codes that are the highest, that are generating the highest impressions for a unit, often are zip codes where that unit isn't located, right? So it's in a different zip code. And that really is powerful in my mind because it really starts to talk about that movement story that we've been hitting today, right? It's people are on the move and we're reaching them as they're on the move. And we've always known that. And now we can actually show that visually. And it's really helps just make and reemphasize that point. I can't tell you how many times, like I said, I've been on the road with people and just that point, being able to prove that point is just so compelling for people, I think. And then, did you want to add anything there, Steve, or I can go on and talk about the bigger packet, like the 3-5?
Yeah, go ahead and I'll see if I have anything to add at the end.
All right, cool. And so again, as we start to think about, okay, what are those other situations where you might feel like you need 3, 5, or more units? It's really about, and again, this point has come up already. It's about really understanding your market, right? I think it's an art and a science. I know I've talked a lot about the data, but it's the data and the knowledge, your local market knowledge, and really understanding that one shouldn't trump the other. I think they both work together in synergy, and I think it's really understanding your market. And when we start to talk about this idea of what's enough, I think a lot of times you may hear the term TRP, which is just a sense of media weight, right? And I know Chris brought up the idea of like, we need to get more national dollars. And as that happens, and maybe you're working with agencies more, this idea of TRP comes up. And the best way to think about it, it's really about media weight. It's just a way to know that I'm having the same impact in Syracuse, New York, as I'm having in, Columbia, South Carolina, right? It's really about that. But again, it's really trying to drill down and understand what's the goals? What are those metrics that are going to be success for your client, and really understanding those. Is it generating a lot of impressions? Is it really, like I said, understanding the TRPs or understanding the reach or the frequency? And I do understand, like, sometimes with local sales, you know, the metrics are secondary, and that's totally fine. I get it and I respect that. But what I can say is, like, having these metrics helps you build a good plan. And whether or not the client needs to know that, you actually, it's helpful to have those in your back pocket. And you know with confidence that I know the market, I know the metrics, and I know I'm going to reach their goals, and then they're happy and then they come back. And whether or not they know that the reason behind it, it's maybe okay sometimes, as long as you know the metrics.
And I think the only quick points I underscore on that is I think it is all about effectiveness at the end of the day, and ROI. You know, they want to get a good return on their investment just like they do with their savings in the bank. And like Scott said, you know, matching that audience understanding. Sometimes maybe a single billboard that's going to be in a really high profile location is the answer. But other times, you know, depending on their goals and what they're trying to accomplish, you know, maybe they really need to reach a broader target audience. So that's going to be a whole combination of locations. But my last point on this, I just want to make really quickly. We did a Nielsen poster study a few years ago. It was in 10 markets all across the U.S. of small, medium, and large sizes, and across a whole range of product categories the advertisers were. And one of the main takeaways from that study was those campaigns that had heavier media weight were able to generate higher levels of ad recall.
Great points. We're running out of time, so this will be the last question. And this should be an easy one because everybody knows all billboards work. But some of us had a client who tried out of home once and concluded it didn't work. How would you best address that situation?
Scott, do you want me to start on this one?
Yeah. You know.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, what I would do is I would invest the time and energy up front to minimize the likelihood of that outcome. I'd use a client's needs analysis and making sure that the out-of-home campaign that is installed is properly structured to support those needs that you've identified in the client's needs analysis, or perhaps they have, you know, momentary, specific, unique goals that they're trying to accomplish with that particular campaign. But it's really critically important that those all match up right. And, you know, the creative just really has to support the desired results. And was it well done? I mean, is it easily read? You know, has it been designed in an engaging manner? Is there too much copy? Is the logo of a sufficient size? Is the business name of sufficient size? That's really a hard conversation, I think, to have with clients sometimes about the the creative, because they get really focused on what they want to do, and it's hard to kind of move them along. So I do want to quickly share one other slide with you, if I may, and that is about our mock-up generator. And it's a great tool. We call it both a creative testing tool, and I also call it an educational tool, because what it does is it allows you to take the spec creative and drop that into this tool, and then you can use your expertise and other creative resources you have access to try to improve on what the client has initially spec'd for the out-of-home ad. This tool allows you can perhaps, you know, they want to put a picture of their dog and their cat and themselves and way too much copy and their website and their phone number and their address on the ad. You could mock up the ad exactly the way the client is requesting it. Then again, you can use your creative expertise to simplify the ad and drill it down. And you can send them copies of each of the different renderings to help them start to visualize the impact. And you'll see at the bottom of the screen here, there is a zoom feature that's a distance viewer, so you can get a near or far away view of the creative. And this tool is free for anyone to use. It's had over 75,000 uses since we launched it. All you have to do is sign up for an account, and then you'll be able to utilize the tool. Scott, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and I know we're running out of time, but I would just going to echo what you said up front. You know, it's really about establishing what are those KPIs, what are the keys to success, right? And not getting into that situation. Or even if there's somebody who said, I tried it, but it didn't work, revisiting that with them. What didn't work about it? Why? Like, did they really even have clear goals at the outset? And it's really about that, and then matching kind of the inventory to meet those goals. And one thing I didn't get to mention, I know Kim mentioned up front, so I just want to give a quick heads up on that, is that we've been producing a lot of data and reports for the whole throughout the COVID-19 crisis. So, and a lot of that data is available for free. You don't have to be a Geopath member. It's available on our blog, or on which is blog.geopath.org, or as our newsletter. Again, you could just sign up for a newsletter. And we're also making a report available to everybody who's attended today that has data across all of the DMAs across the U.S. And we have one more tool that's a free tool for everybody across the industry. It's at travel.geopath.org. It's a daily mobility tracker, so you can really understand and see how traffic is coming back in various across the markets. And we're seeing a really kind of a big return from the April lows and starting to level out right now. So it's really some really interesting data and from what we understand, and hopefully it's been very helpful to the industry as a whole. So I'll stop talking. Just want to say thank you, for having us and being a part of this.
Great. Well, Steve and Scott, thanks. Those were really good answers and great insights to some really frequently asked questions. So we really appreciate that. Our last session today is entitled Integrating Mobile into the Out-of-Home Offering. And joining us are going to be Jill Cody, Chief Growth Officer at Adams Outdoor, and Matt Hood, Online Channel Manager at Adams. They will share their expertise on the process of selling mobile media and out-of-home as a comprehensive and effective media mix. I want to add that Patrick McLaughlin was scheduled to join us, but he's a little under the weather. So we send him our best wishes. And now I'll turn it over to Jill and Matt.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to be here with the group. And yes, well wishes to Patrick at DDI. And just a lot of good content that kind of lends itself to what we're going to spend a few minutes talking with. I'm going to be about part of the conference and spend a few minutes with all of you about some things you may want to consider regarding online advertising. Regardless if you choose to sell any type of online products, we feel very strongly that it's important to understand what's going on in the online space, because it does really enhance the value proposition of our core out-of-home products. If you think about it, we've talked about it through studies, none of us go very far without our devices. And a lot of times we have multiple devices that we're on. So we have a strong ability as an out-of-home industry to influence consumer behaviors. And this leads directly into their online activity. And Steve actually shared a trend that we saw with the Nielsen out-of-home study, but I'm going to reiterate it, is that trends are showing us that large portions of consumers are going to their devices prior to making purchase decisions. The Nielsen out-of-home study last year showed that 90% of US residents 16 plus have noticed some form of out-of-home advertising in the past month, and that 66% of out-of-home viewers were prompted by an out-of-home ad to engage in an action on their smartphone. So it kind of points in the direction that outdoor, out-of-home goes hand in hand with our ability to influence online activity, and in what we're going to be talking about today, which is the consideration of possibly selling online products as part of your portfolio. We're also seeing through some studies that outdoor has the ability to inspire search and social media activation that's equal to or greater than competitive media in our markets at a much less investment cost for our advertisers. So it all around just builds a stronger case for our medium. And what we're seeing at Adams is that through out-of-home and online combination campaigns, we really can help advertisers engage with consumer behaviors through every step of their path to purchase, giving our advertisers strong return on investments on their dollars spent. About a month ago, I had the opportunity to be a part of a webinar with the VP of Media for Dunkin', Keith Lesby, and he specifically spoke to this point. And to quote him, he said, "Out-of-home is a critical traffic driving media for us, and that will continue. The key is we have to be able to measure back to people on a device level when they are exposed to media channels. Did that drive a trip to our store? Incremental visits and direct attribution is a key measurement for Dunkin' on any media that we purchase on a go forward. So at Adams, we didn't enter into the online space out of a need. We actually entered it into selling online because it helps us provide well-rounded campaigns to some of our advertisers. It certainly helps us compete in the media markets that we're in, and overall it helps us just grow our revenue. So it's a great time to be in the out-of-home business. I've loved listening to the speakers today because it just gets me that much more excited about what it is that we do and our ability to influence consumers. We feel that there's even more opportunity when you add online to your portfolio of products that you offer. And my colleague Matt is now going to kind of walk you through some slides on things you may want to consider as you look at integrating mobile or online products as part of your business.
Yeah, so let's think about like this. Hey, I'm Matt with Adams Outdoor. I'm the online channel manager there, and let's think about this. What were some common themes we heard throughout the day? Audience, data, let's say activation online. Gordon talked about being a consultant and a resource. You should think about it. Like Chris talked about location. Like it's not just about a location. It's about, think about the abundance of data that we have available, right? So we have all these things that everybody has talked about. And what we want to do is try to realize, how do we tie it together? So if you think about the power of out-of-home, like that massive megaphone to reach so many people, and think about how granular you can get with online, or the amount of information when you combine the two together, you basically have a really good recipe for success. And it's a power that all the other mediums are trying to, in some ways, replicate. So like Jill said, when we decided to do this and really jump in here and try to build this out, we wanted to make something that was really smart. And we wanted to do something that gave our sellers a chance to be a resource. You know what I mean? Like Gordon said, who else would you want an advertiser calling for advice? Us, right? Because the more they interact with us, the more chances you have to have, let's say, not just a client, but a relationship and a partner. So let's walk through this, and I'm going to give you guys some points here. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. And so let's think about like this, identifying a target audience. What have we talked about a lot today? We've talked about the abundance of information and how much we can help someone drill down, no matter if it's programmatically, is it by location, is it people, doesn't matter what it is. There's so much information at our fingertips. So we have the ability to help people identify the audience. And as we identify this and we use this abundance of information, we're able to go in and layer that in with online, especially from a mobile standpoint, and say, okay, we can help advertisers identify a true audience, and not just an audience that's going to see the ad, but help them, let's say, from target audience. The purpose is to track target audience all the way down to activation. So next slide, please, if you don't mind. I think everybody understands audience. So let's do this. This is something we like to call like engagement pathway, the pathway to engagement. And we know, reading left to right, that out-of-home leads to engagement, right? And a lot of times up until recently, sometimes we might have, we always get pawned. I get asked the question all the time, well, how can you show me that this led to activation to sales, or this led to people to my business? Not just by, check your cash register, you probably sold more, but people like quantifiable evidence nowadays. So what does out-of-home lead to? It leads to online activation. It leads to mobile activation. People doing their searches, like Joe mentioned, 66% of out-of-home viewers prompted, let's say an engagement with a smartphone. Steve, 42% drove search, a search activation. That's pretty strong when you come to think about it. So what we've done immediately, if we look at the engagement pathway, is finding a vehicle to drive activation on multiple platforms, right? Steve, you also made the comment about audience fragmentation with most mediums, right? So if people are hungry to find something that drives, that's a driver. Why not turn to out-of-home? It's a perfect time to capitalize, because what happens is you can use out-of-home as your pathway to engagement to your brand, because we know how much lift it leads from online and mobile, right? So let's go to the next slide. And to help you understand some of that, what does it lead to? Next slide, please. There we go. Website, social media, and search engine. We already know that, you know, everybody thinks they're an expert in social, right? My wife is one of those that thinks that. But anyway, what we've learned is brand activation. What does this mean? The 42% search. What does online give us the ability to do? So what we try to do, let's say at Adams, is find a way to integrate and look at this information, not just from a third-party perspective, but in a real-time perspective, where we can tell most campaigns that we run that have an out-of-home component, an online component, you do see a massive amount of website lift. What that means is people are actually going to the website more, right? Social media, you can typically see lift in people going to social media, engaging with the brand. You know, they're getting those post engagements. They are actually seeing a lift in people looking for them in social. Same thing with search engines. It is really, really easy to see in a search engine how often does brand related terms go up when an out-of-home campaign is active. And that's done by integrated online in a way to where we can actually see these things. So then what happens when they integrate them, not only do we build like this really smart type of program, but it's not a product that supplements out-of-home, it supports out-of-home. And that's kind of probably the question a lot of you guys are asking. But if you do it and you think about it in the simplistic way, there's this wealth of information. Online has a set of tools that we can utilize and plug into our campaigns for out-of-home that help us show lift and brand activation from our campaigns. And guess what? Most of these tools are available to us. There's so many people that are available to help us when we want to achieve it. And a lot of the tracking mechanisms are in a way free when it comes to measuring sources. So brand activation is a big component of why we have out-of-home and online. Because as we lead to brand interaction and activation to a brand, online gives us the ability to not only capitalize on the brand activation, but then start tracking results and driving result. Because not only can we do the top line piece of this, of driving the search, but we can also capture the search. I love the comment of close to the transaction. I was in radio for a long time, and I grew up in radio. And one of the things we used to always say is, you know, the closest thing to the transaction used to be people listening to the radio and try to influence it. And, you know, the more that I've gotten out of that industry and started to learn and really dive in out of home, I've learned that, man, we have a tool that is extremely powerful. Because I promise you, if someone wants to buy a car, they're hungry, they're going to see that board, and they're really, really probably going to stop and go look at whatever's on it. So we have the opportunity to not only drive it from the out-of-home standpoint, but from the online standpoint. So if they see it and they're thinking about it, we can capture them on multiple medias and make them work simultaneously together to drive success. Because then what happens is we're shifting from products, and then we're talking about audience, and we're talking about result. So let's talk about results for a second. Go to the next one, please. What does online give us the opportunity to do when we combine that? So we know we have activation, right? We know that we can help find a good audience. We can help find the perfect location. We can find all these things. We can tap into all the resources we have to find these people. Well, then when you add in online and you add in some of these components, especially mobile, you get the opportunity to actually see brand lift. What brand lift is those actual people looking for a brand. And if you look in the right places, it's really easy to see. You can see, you know, more consistent sales. We're able to see more people showing up at a store. A lot of us have explored, you know, geofencing and out-of-home assets and other forms. I mean, there's cool ways to do this, but if you look at the results, it's being smart with what we see. And the next one's data analytics, like analyzing the data. We have the ability now to get in and do all kinds of A/B testing. Is it red versus green? What product delivered this or that? Locations. Data analysis is like at our fingertips. And the last one's lead tracking here. The reason why we decided a big piece of this was to start incorporating not just, let's say, online delivery mechanisms, but online like technology in general, was to help us identify with lead tracking. And we also have to identify what a lead is, right? Because a lead can mean something different from everyone. So pretty much, we have the ability now to track physical foot traffic. We can show brand lift. We can show brand engagements and lift and all these things. So what happens is you're able to not just be this medium for, let's say, impressions, but now we can these people can come to us and we can be a true consultant and be a resource and actually share the wealth of knowledge and things that we have at our fingertips. And it's a really good time to actually integrate it into your business and kind of look at it and sit back and say, you know, what works and what doesn't for me. Another comment was talking about, you know, kind of that someone made was understanding the market, right? Every market's unique in a way in an advertiser. What that means is digital might be really good over here, or posters, or depending on what you're looking for. It goes to the location conversation. Same thing with online. Not everything is the same. The more you understand your market, the more you can dive in and understand your customer and have a true conversation and understand the need based on audience and based on what we want to achieve. When you use out of home and online together, you are able to develop a product that is really hard for anyone else to actually top when it comes to result, when it comes to value, and it comes to activation of a client that your actual partner is looking to capture. So think about it like this. Keep it simple. Who's your audience? How am I going to get them to engage with your brand? Leading with out of home. Talk about brand activation with people. This is what it turns into. This is how we know it's working for you. And then results. It gives you, we have the ability to show true result. And I know I kind of ran through this a little bit, but what I want to say is, if we look and sit back at this, and Chris, you made some comments around, you know, let's say volume of resources and being smart. Sit back and think about your goals, guys. Think about what you want to achieve, how you want to go to market, how you want to appeal to people. And then there's this abundance of resources that are available, right? Think about it. Talk to them, talk to people, and then try to craft something that represents your market. If you understand the heart of the market, you can create something that will be successful for you.
One other thing I would love to add is, as we look back at how we entered the online space and giving some recommendations that you can learn from kind of the steps we took that maybe you don't have to take, which is look at partners that can, a few things, offer multiple products. So online is bigger than just geofencing. I know when I first started getting into business, because I've been a billboard person since I started in the industry at 24, I just thought geofencing was online. I thought that was it, and it's not. And there's so many other products that you should probably know about and consider if you're truly looking to integrate mobile and online into your portfolio. The other thing I would recommend is partners. There are many partners out there that care deeply about what's going on in our medium and our business, and then can connect the dots for us as an industry then to put together the best campaigns that are targeted and take all of this information and data from Geopath and OAAA and all the industry information that we have at our fingertips in this data and condense that down and build together campaigns with online robust campaigns. And it just, we're really seeing it move the needle for some of our advertisers. So learn from us as you kind of vet partners. I highly encourage you to take some time and do some digging. Again, what I pointed to earlier is even if you don't end up selling the product, I think the more that we know our ability as an out-of-home core product to influence online behaviors makes it better for us on the sales side of our online out-of-home product. So, with
so we just had a question.
Oh, we did have a question?
Come in, Joe. Yeah. Have we seen a correlation with branded SEM cost reductions with the target acquisition building of algorithms of Google and Bing based on a weighted out-of-home campaigns? You know, that's a really good question. A lot of times what we do see is the answer is yes and no. So yes, we do in some ways, because what you end up having is you start having a heck of a lot more, let's say when we say branded SEM costs, there's a lot more searches for the brand itself. And in times, it helps both facets, not just SEM, but actually helps organically raise the business up. So yes, are there benefits and cost reductions? In a way, yes, because it not only increases SEM traffic, but it increases organic traffic with people looking for them. Google, I mean, so are there benefits in running them simultaneously? Absolutely. That's an offline conversation probably to have, because there's many factors that go in that, but in a nutshell, anything you could use to build the brand on something that relates to the brand because someone's looking for you, the more likelihood it is to reduce costs. Because I'm not using a random term to generate a click. And the more it's related to me, as a brand, typically, sometimes depending on competition, less it costs.
All right. Well, thank you all for letting us be a part of this. And Stephen, I'll turn it back over to you unless there's any further questions.
Well, thank you, Jill. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed, and we all hope you've enjoyed, today's virtual independent operators seminar, and that the information that's been shared by our terrific panelists of experts will help your organizations thrive in the days ahead. We want to invite you now to join us for a virtual mixer sponsored by Daktronics, where you can socialize with your colleagues. Please refer to the Zoom chat box function, which should be on your screen now, where you will find a link to a Zoom mixer. Click on the link and you will be directed to one of our breakout rooms where you can converse with friends and colleagues. So we'll shift the room in 10 minutes time to allow more colleagues to intermix. So we'll see you in just a few minutes. Please click now on the chat box.